Hey guys, tonight we're stepping into a morning that should never happen, a day when the entire medieval world wakes up and somehow forgets to call upon the Lord. Imagine opening your eyes to the creak of a straw mattress, a rooster that sounds more like it's choking on smoke than greeting the sun, and realizing that no one around you has made the sign of the cross. Not one. You probably won't survive this, at least not with your soul intact. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're here, drop your location and your local time down in the comments. Love seeing where and when you're listening from. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You wake in a thatched cottage, air thick with wood smoke and the faint sweetness of drying hay. The first light spills through the cracks in the shutters, painting lines across the packed earth floor. Normally, your first act would be to trace a trembling hand from forehead to chest, whispering a prayer for protection. But this morning, something is different. There's a weight in the air, a pause, a missing heartbeat in the rhythm of faith. You stretch, blink, and realize no one in the house has prayed. Your wife stirs beside you, her hair tangled, eyes half closed. She mutters something about the rooster's lateness, but doesn't cross herself before speaking. Even that small omission feels wrong. Outside, the rooster crows again, lays hoarse, as though exhausted by its own duty. The village dogs howl in answer. You can't help noticing the uneasy silence that follows, as though the air itself is waiting for a benediction that never comes. The medieval world you live in thrives on ritual. Every motion, every breath, every sip of ale carries a whispered prayer or a sacred gesture. To eat without blessing is to invite demons. To walk without a saint's name is to tempt fate. But today, everyone seems absent-minded, maybe cursed. You glance at the small wooden cross above the hearth. That's tilted, crooked. Your son, half asleep, yawns and heads to the door without even touching it. A shiver crawls down your back. You tell yourself it's just the cold, though winter hasn't yet arrived. Historians still argue whether medieval villagers were truly devout or merely terrified of what would happen if they weren't. But here, in this living silence, you can feel the fear like a fog. The smell of last night's stew lingers, thick broth, barley, a hint of pork. You grab the wooden spoon and stir the pot lazily, watching the steam coil upward. Normally, you'd whisper a blessing before tasting, but you hesitate. Everyone else seems to have forgotten, so maybe you just don't. The first spoonful burns your tongue. It tastes off like copper. You spit it back into the pot. Maybe it's spoiled, or maybe something in the air is different today. You step outside, pulling your cloak tight. The morning mist curls around the cottages, swallowing the path toward the chapel. The bell should be ringing by now, calling the faithful to morning prayers. But there's no sound. Just the crunch of frost beneath your boots. At the well, old Marta the spinner is muttering under her breath, but not the usual Ave Maria. Her words are nonsense, rhythmic, panicked. She drops her bucket and crosses her arms, glaring at you as if you're the one who's cursed her. No blessings today, she croaks. The air's wrong. Even the priest's sick. You want to laugh, but the sound dies in your throat. A cat streaks across the road, black as soot, tail high. Normally, you'd spit 3 times to ward off misfortune. Today, you just stare. The cat stops, looks right at you, and slinks behind the church fence. You remember how Brother Tomas once said that the devil doesn't arrive with thunder, but with forgetfulness, first a skipped prayer, then a missing mass. Until no one remembers the words at all. At the time, you'd laughed. But now the truth of it presses like a cold hand on your neck. Your neighbor, Hugo the miller, trudges past with a sack of grain. He nods, distracted. No blessing on his lips. His mill wheel hasn't turned since dawn. You can hear it creaking against the still water. The stream's gone sluggish, he mutters. Never seen that before? Forgot to bless it. You joke weakly. He doesn't smile. Maybe the Lord forgot us first. You both fall silent. Somewhere in the woods, beyond the fields, a crow calls hoarse, distant, mocking. The first hour passes like a dream. The sun climbs, pale and thin, but warmth doesn't follow. The villagers gather near the well, whispering. Someone swears the priest's house is empty. A group of children runs by, laughing, tossing small stones at a patch of mud. But even their play seems muted. When one of them trips, scraping his knee, no one murmurs a blessing. His mother just stares, wringing her hands. It's nothing, she says, though her eyes dart to the clouds. The clouds have thickened, dark gray, though the morning should be bright. You look up and think, absurdly, that maybe God has simply looked away. Factually speaking, medieval people tied every illness, every lost crop, every sudden death to divine will. But they also clung to a surprising number of folk charms: iron nails above doors, garlands of herbs, little wax figures blessed by traveling friars. And when divine protection failed, they turned to superstition, like a second language. The fringe of faith, always ready to catch what heaven dropped. You head toward the chapel. The door stands open, swaying slightly in the breeze. Inside, the candles have burned out, leaving trails of hardened wax like frozen tears. The altar cloth is rumpled, the chalice overturned. It smells of dust and something faintly metallic like old blood or rust. You take a cautious step forward. A faint sound catches your ear, humming. Behind the altar, crouched low, the young altar boy rocks back and forth, whispering a tune with no words. You reach out, and he flinches, eyes wild. He's gone, he says. Father Matthias is gone. He said he couldn't hear the Lord anymore. The phrase hangs in the air. Couldn't hear the Lord? You try to reassure him, but your own voice sounds hollow. You glance at the icons on the wall, the painted saints, their faces serene, but something feels off. Maybe it's the shadows. Maybe it's that the light through the stained glass makes them look as though they're frowning. Outside, a murmur rises. Someone swears the cows are refusing to give milk. Another says the hens have stopped laying. A third claims a white dog was seen walking upright near the edge of the woods. The line between gossip and gospel has always been thin here. Today, it vanishes completely. Historians still argue whether the medieval mind truly believed in these daily miracles and terrors, or whether it was all performed away to make sense of chaos. But you don't feel like you're watching a performance. You feel like you're in it. You walk back toward your cottage, the path slick with dew. Your boots leave prints that vanish too quickly, as though the earth is swallowing them whole. You can't shake the feeling that you're being watched not by people, but by the absence of something vast. The smell of smoke drifts on the wind, someone's chimney, maybe, or something larger burning unseen. The air tastes of iron again. When you reach your door, you pause. For the first time, you raise your hand to your forehead, trying to recall the familiar motion of the cross, but your fingers hesitate. The words don't come. You stand there, staring at your trembling hand, and for a heartbeat, you feel utterly alone. Then, faintly, from somewhere across the fields, you hear a low chant. A woman's voice, rising and falling in strange cadences. It isn't Latin. Isn't prayer older, earthier? You can almost feel the rhythm in your bones. Maybe it's Marta again, or one of the shepherd's wives trying her hand at an old pagan charm. You think about joining her, just in case. But the wind shifts, carrying the sound away. And you're left with the creak of your door, the whisper of straw, and the gnawing certainty that something sacred has gone missing. No one knows how to call it back. The morning has thickened into a kind of gray that feels like damp wool pressed against your skin. You step out again, your boots sinking slightly into the muddy ruts of the lane. Normally, the smell of fresh bread and smoke from a dozen hearths would greet you, comforting as a hymn. But now the air is sharp, empty. Even the geese have gone quiet. you pass the baker's cottage, where flour usually coats the windows like holy dust. Today, the shutters are half open, and inside you hear a low curse. The baker, Tomas, is sweating over his dough, his sleeves rolled high. He's muttering something, but not the usual morning blessing. Instead, he's whispering a rhyme his grandmother taught him. Salt and wheat, blood and heat, keep the devils from my feet. You've heard it before, half-jokingly, but now there's no laughter in it. He glances up as you linger in the doorway. It won't rise, he says. The bread it just won't rise. His hands tremble as he kneads. It's like the yeast died in the night. You want to tell him it's just the chill, but the look on his face stops you. Outside, the chickens strut aimlessly, pecking at nothing. One lets out a sound so shrill it could pass for a scream. Even the beasts know something's wrong, Tomas mutters. You nod, trying to smile. Maybe they're fasting too, you joke. He doesn't laugh. You wander on. The smell of smoke drifts from a nearby cottage, rich with roasting meat, and your stomach tightens. Normally, the midday meal would start with a blessing over the bread and salta, small ceremony-binding family, faith, and food. Today, people eat in uneasy silence. The clatter of wooden bowls feels too loud, too human. Your own stomach growls, but you can't shake the image of that dough lying lifeless on the baker's table. Maybe it's just superstition, you think? Bread doesn't care about prayers. It just needs yeast, warmth, and time. And yet, medieval people swore that food without a blessing was poison to the soul. There's even a recorded tale from 1324 of a man in Flanders who choked on his supper after forgetting grace. His widow swore the devil had cooked it. Historians still argue whether that story was moral instruction or sheer invention, but no one in your village would dare to test it, until today. You head toward your own yard, where the pig snorts softly behind the fence. Normally, he greets you with enthusiasm and animals, innocent hunger. Today, he just stares, black eyes glinting. His snout dips into the mud, but he doesn't root. You toss him a turnip. He doesn't move, just stands there, staring, a pale reflection of the same dread that grips you. The path toward the well is crowded now. Women with buckets whisper as they wait their turn. You hear fragments of fear drifting like smoke. The bread won't rise, the hens won't lay. The priest's gone, the Lord's gone. And then, as if the world has been listening, thunder rumbles somewhere beyond the hills. A low growl, more felt than heard. The women fall silent. A few glance at the sky, but no one crosses herself. You can feel its instinct clawing at your chest, but you fight it back. Everyone else is pretending nothing's wrong, so you will too. A donkey brays, sharp and ragged. You turn to see old Bertram struggling to hitch his cart. His wife, Matilda, clutches a sprig of rosemary and waves it like a wand. For luck, she says. In case the sky's angry, you raise an eyebrow. Since when does rosemary calm the heavens? She shrugs. Since the church stopped answering. That earns her a few wary looks, but no rebuke. You realize with a start that no one fears blasphemy today. The air is too heavy for it. You walk beside the road where fields stretch outward, golden with half-harvested barley. Normally, this sight would fill you with a quiet gratitude, the rhythm of labor and rest, all guided by the sacred calendar. But now the fields seem almost hostile. The barley heads bent low like gossipers sharing a secret. A gust of wind whips across the landscape, carrying the sour scent of decay. Somewhere, a crow lands on a scarecrow's arm. Its caw splits the silence. You swear it sounds like laughter. The animals seem to feel it too. Dogs bark at empty space. Horses refuse to pull their loads. The village goat breaks its tether and bolts straight into the woods. No one runs after it. They just watch, pale and wide-eyed, as if the beast is running from something they can't see. You remember a story the priest once told how, in times of sin, animals could sense damnation before humans could. A crow perched on a church roof meant a soul was lost. A cat licking its paw beneath the altar meant the devil was passing by. At the time, it seemed like harmless folklore. But now, surrounded by restless beasts and anxious faces, it doesn't feel so harmless. The smell of baking bread finally drifts from Tomas's cottage again, faint but real. Maybe things are turning. You allow yourself a moment of hope till you see smoke billowing from the thatch of another roof. Someone's fire has caught. You rush forward, shouting, and the villagers scramble to help. Buckets pass from hand to hand, but the water hisses uselessly against the flames. Say a prayer. Someone cries, voice trembling, but no one does. They just throw water and hope. The fire dies eventually, leaving a smoking scar of blackened straw. The house still stands, barely. The family sits outside, covered in soot. You hand them a piece of charred bread. The youngest child takes it without a word. "We didn't bless it," the mother whispers. "That's why it burned." You want to tell her that's nonsense, that sparks, wind, and carelessness burn houses, not forgotten prayers. But something deep in you hesitates. As the crowd disperses, you overhear two old men arguing. One insists the priest's absence is a test of faith. The other claims it's punishment that too many villagers have been skipping Mass to gossip at the well. Historians still argue whether such fears were sincere or social control. But to the medieval mind, sin wasn't abstract, was weather, hunger, disease. When faith faltered, reality itself bent out of shape. A soft drizzle begins. Fat drops spatter the dirt, turning it to gray paste. You tilt your head, letting one hit your cheek. It feels colder than it should. A woman beside you flinches. "That's no rain," she says. "It's tears." You walk home through the damp quiet, the world smelling of smoke and wet straw. You think about the phrase your grandmother used to say, "A day without the Lord is a day borrowed from hell." It used to sound poetic. Now it sounds like prophecy. Inside, your wife is trying to make lunch barley soup and a crust of bread from yesterday. She hums, though it's not a hymn. You sit down beside her, forcing a smile. "How's the stew?" you ask. "Thick," she says. Like glue, you take a spoonful. It tastes flat, lifeless, as though the fire forgot how to cook. You glance toward the hearth and notice something odd. The smoke curls downward instead of up, coiling into the room like a dark snake. Your wife frowns. "Chimney's blocked again," she says. You both watch the smoke twist into vague shapes, almost human. She crosses her arms, unsettled. "Maybe we should," she starts, but stops. The word pray never comes. The dog whines in the corner. You reach to pet it, but it shies away, tail between its legs. The afternoon passes heavy and dreamlike. You sit by the window, staring at the rain that's turned to mist. Occasionally, a villager walks by, faces drawn, eyes flicking toward the church tower like children afraid of a sleeping giant. The bell still hasn't rung. Not once. By sunset, the clouds turn bruised purple, the kind that promise storms, or worse. You light a tallow candle, its flame flickering weakly, as if reluctant to stay alive. Your son crawls onto your lap. "Will the Lord come back tomorrow?" He asks, voice small. You want to say yes. You want to believe it. But instead, you murmur, "Sleep now. We'll see in the morning." He nods, trusting, and drifts off. The candle guttering beside you seems to breathe in time with his sleep. Outside, somewhere in the darkening village, a rooster crows again out of time, as though the day itself has lost its order. You close your eyes and whisper the first prayer you can remember, just in case. The words stumble out, half forgotten, but they feel like a spark catching in a damp hearth. It's not much, but it's something. By dawn's second light, the rain has stopped, leaving a skin of fog that clings to the cottages like a shroud. The paths are slick, puddles reflecting a pale, uncertain sky. You can hear the faint splash of buckets down by the wealthy, steady rhythm of water drawn. gossip exchanged, and dread quietly fermented. You pull on your cloak and step outside, the damp air smelling of moss and cold iron. The village well sits at the crossroads, where four muddy paths meet like veins leading to the heart of things. Normally, the well is the place of blessings, every drop drawn with a whispered prayer, every splash sanctified by ritual. But today, the water feels wrong. You can sense it even before you reach the stones. Old Marta, her back bent like a question mark, is already there. Her gray hair is tied in a knot, and her fingers clutch the rope as though it's the only thing keeping her tethered to the earth. She looks up as you approach. "Don't lean too close," she croaks. The water's whispering. You smile faintly. "It's just the echo, Marta." But she shakes her head. "No echo I ever heard sounds like that." You peer into the well. The water gleams far below, dark and slick, a perfect mirror. As you watch, a small ripple forms, though no bucket stirs the surface. It shivers outward, then stills. You lean closer. For a moment, you think you see your own reflection move its mouth, twisting into a grimace your face didn't make. You step back sharply. Marta nods, as if you've confirmed something she already knew. "No blessing," she says. "No guard. The water's listening for souls to swallow." You laugh, but it's hollow. Historians still argue whether villagers truly believed that demons lived in wells or rivers. But there are countless records of water treated as both sacred and dangerous, a mirror of God's mercy and the devil's depth. To drink without blessing, they said, was to invite possession through the mouth. A few more villagers gather women, mostly, their skirts heavy with dew. They fill their buckets in uneasy silence. One young girl drops her ladle and shrieks as it vanishes into the depths with a hollow clank. "It pulled it down," she cries. "Something's down there." Her mother hushes her, glancing nervously toward the chapel tower that still stands mute against the sky. "It's just the rope slipping," she insists, but her hands are trembling. You can't help but look again. The surface is calm now. Too calm. You remember the priest's warning from long ago. Water reflects truth and lies alike. The devil loves both. You turn away, forcing a laugh you don't feel. "We'll all go mad if we start fearing our own wells," you say. But your voice sounds like someone else's. As you walk back, your boots squelch in the mud. The smell of wet hay and smoke fills the air. A few children chase each other past, their laughter thin and strange in the mist. You notice one of them, a pale boy with a red scarf, stop and stare at the well. He tilts his head, listening. Then, slowly, he walks toward it. His mother screams his name, and he snaps out of his trance, stumbling back. You don't know whether to blame the water or the silence. At your cottage, your wife stands by the window, staring at the sky. "There's no birds," she says softly. You look up. Right. Normally, sparrows and crows would crowd the thatch roofs, squabbling for crumbs. Today, the air is empty. Even the ever-present buzz of flies seems to have vanished. The silence presses on your eardrums. You reach for her hand. It's cold, clammy. Maybe the storm scared them off. Maybe, she murmurs, not believing it. In the distance, the sound of a hammer rings from the blacksmith's forge, a comforting sound, rhythmic, human. You cling to it, but it fades too quickly, swallowed by fog. You decide to fetch water yourself, as if that act might make the world normal again. The bucket's handle creaks, the rope rough against your palms. You lower it slowly, listening to the rope hiss against the stone. The splash when it hits feels far too loud. When you pull it up, the water sloshes cold against your wrist. Clear, clean-looking. You take a sip. It tastes fine, maybe a bit metallic, but that's normal. You tell yourself it's normal. Then you notice something small and pale floating on the surface of ether. White, soft, delicate. You blink, and it's gone. You pour the bucket into your jug anyway, pretending not to see the way the ripples seem to spell out shapes. As you carry it home, Marta calls after you, her voice cracked and fierce. Don't drink without blessing. That's how they get in. You stop. Who? Her eyes gleam. The forgotten ones. She points toward the church. When the prayers stop, they crawl up from below. You'll see. You turn away, muttering something about her age, but your hands are trembling so badly that the water sloshes out onto the path. Inside, your wife frowns. You're pale, she says. You all right? Just cold, you answer, though you're sweating. You pour the water into the wooden basin by the window. It reflects the dim room like a mirror, the candle's flame wobbling across its surface. You stare for a moment, caught by your own reflection again. You think you see your eyes blink twice, once in the mirror, once in your head. You shove the basin aside. To distract yourself, you start mending a broken stool. The rhythm of the knife shaving wood helps, but every few minutes you hear faint dripping from somewhere. You check the roof, the floor, the basin. Dry, still, the sound continues slow, steady, like water falling onto stone. You follow it outside. The well is empty now. The villagers have gone, but the rope swings slightly, as if someone just let go. You could swear you hear whispers echoing up from the depths, soft, almost human syllables, like distant conversation. You take a step closer. Don't, a voice murmurs behind you. It's Hugo, the miller. He looks worse than yesterday, his face gray with sleeplessness. I poured flour down there earlier, he says quietly. Wanted to see how deep it was. Never hit bottom. You raise an eyebrow. That's impossible. The well's barely 20 feet. He shakes his head. I listened for the splash. It never came. Historians still argue whether medieval wells were ever truly seen as portals, doorways between worlds, but stories persist in records of villagers refusing to draw water during eclipses or after funerals. They feared souls might slip in, or worse, climb out. Standing here now, you can understand why. A sudden gust of wind rips across the square, cold and sharp. The well's rope swings violently, creaking. Hugo grabs your arm. It's the wind, you mutter, but even you don't believe it. When you finally turn away, you spot something lying in the mud, a small wooden cross, its string snapped. You bend to pick it up. It's warm to the touch, almost pulsing. You slip it into your pocket without thinking. Back home, your wife has set out bowls for supper, turnip stew again. The water you fetched sits untouched in the corner, a faint ripple still running across its surface. Your son points at it. It's moving. It's the draft, you say quickly. But there is no wind inside. That night, you dream of the well. You're leaning over it, watching your reflection ripple and warp. Something dark moves beneath the surface, a hand, perhaps, or just shadow. You reach in, unable to stop yourself. The water feels alive, like skin. When you pull back, your hand drips with ink instead of water. You wake to find your real hand wet. The basin has overflowed, the floor slick beneath your feet. You shake your wife awake, but she only mumbles, "You shouldn't have fetched it yourself." Outside, the dawn bell still doesn't ring. The village remains trapped in its strange quiet, as if holding its breath. You pour the water into the yard, watching it soak into the earth. It seems to hiss faintly, almost sighing. For a heartbeat, you think you see steam rise where it lands, even though the morning is cool. When the last of it seeps away, you feel lighter. The fear loosens its grip. Maybe tomorrow, you think, someone will remember to pray. Maybe the priest will return, and the world will right itself. Then you hear a sound behind you, the slow creak of the well's rope turning. You turn just in time to see the bucket rising on its own, dripping, gleaming in the weak light. You stand frozen as it stops, hanging at the edge, full to the brim, though no one drew it. The water inside ripples gently, as if waiting. You take a step back, heart pounding. And then, faintly, from the depths below, you hear a whisper that sounds a lot like your own voice saying, don't forget me. The sound of the hammer usually marks safety, rhythm, order. The reassuring clang of the blacksmith's forge tells you that life, for all its strangeness, still has a heartbeat. So when you hear it now sharp, uneven, like a cough between blows, you follow it, desperate for something familiar. The fog has thinned, but hasn't left. It curls along the road like smoke from an unseen fire, carrying with it the faint scent of iron and soot. The blacksmith's hut looms ahead, its door wide open, the forge burning low. You can feel the heat before you even step inside. Odo, the blacksmith, is there, bare-armed and sweating, his hammer poised above a glowing horseshoe. Normally, he'd have muttered a short blessing before striking, asking St. Dunstan to guide his hand and keep the iron from cracking. But today, you realize he hasn't said a word. The silence between each hammerfall feels heavier than the sound itself. "Morning, Odo," you say softly. He doesn't look up. The metal won't take shape. He grunts. It bends wrong. Won't listen? You watch the glowing iron twist slightly as he strikes like it's resisting him. He plunges it into the water trough, and steam bursts upward, smelling faintly of blood and sulfur. You cough and take a step back. "Too much charcoal?" you offer. He shakes his head. Too much silence. You're not sure what he means, but you don't ask. The forge has always been more than a workshop pit, a sanctuary. Villagers come here not just for tools, but for protection. Odo's iron nails are said to keep witches out. His horseshoes hang above doors to ward off the devil. Iron itself is sacred, one of the few things believed to burn demons without flame. Historians still argue whether the reverence for iron came from Christian belief or older pagan memory. But for the medieval villager, it was simple. Iron was God's bone, and the hammer was his heartbeat. Today, that heartbeat stutters. Odo lifts the cooled horseshoe. It's warped, the curve uneven. "See that?" he says, voice hoarse. "It melted like butter." You nod slowly. Maybe it's the fire. He wipes his brow with a soot-blackened hand. "No, it's me. I forgot the blessing." You can see the guilt in his eyes. He looks like a man who's misplaced something sacred. "I've been striking iron since I was 12, he mutters. "Never once skipped it. And today? It just slipped my mind." He tosses the ruined shoe into a corner, where it clatters among others, at least half a dozen, all bent, useless. "The forge doesn't forgive," he adds quietly. Neither does the iron. A small crowd has gathered outside, drawn by the sound and the strangeness of it all. Children peek in, whispering. Someone murmurs that Odo's fire has turned cursed. Someone else claims it's a sign, the same curse that silenced the church bells. You can feel tension building in the air like heat before a storm. The blacksmith slams his hammer down again, harder this time. Sparks fly, bright and frantic. For a moment, the light flares across his face, and his shadow leaps huge and monstrous against the wall, horned by the tongs, crowned by the hammer. Someone gasps. You glance back. The villagers are staring, wide-eyed. The blacksmith notices too late. He turns, face flushed. "It's just shadow," he barks. But the fear has already taken root. The rumor spreads fast. By the time you follow him outside, 3 women are whispering about St. Dunstan's legend, how he once seized the devil by the nose with hot tongs and drove him from a smithy. One of them crosses herself, remembering too late what she's not supposed to. Odo looks shaken. "I'm no devil," he mutters, half to himself. You try to reassure him, but even your voice sounds unsure. "It's just a bad day," you say. Everyone's on edge. He nods slowly. "A day without the Lord," he says, echoing Marta's words. The tools forget their master, same as men. He picks up another bar of iron, glowing orange. "Watch," he says, almost defiantly. He strikes once. Once. On the third blow, the hammer handle splits down the middle. The head flies off, striking the wall with a dull thud. The iron bar slips from the tongs, rolling into the ash. No one breathes. The blacksmith stares at the broken handle, his jaw trembling. It's the fire, someone whispers. It's angry. You step forward carefully. Let it rest, Odo. Try again later, but he doesn't seem to hear you. He's staring into the forge now, the flames dancing low and erratic, licking at the coal-like tongues. It's watching, he murmurs. The fire. It's watching me. You glance at the others, silently urging them to leave. Most do. One Lingerza farmer named Allard, who spits on the ground and mutters a prayer under his breath. The sound is oddly comforting, even if it's too late for comfort. You stay a moment longer, then step out into the cool air. The fog has thinned further, revealing the outline of the chapel steeple in the distance. The bell still hasn't rung. The thought feels heavier now, after seeing Odo's forge go quiet. As you walk home, you pass the ruined horseshoes scattered on the ground. You pick one up. It's warm still, but the shape is wrong, as if it tried to twist away from the mold. The edges are smooth, almost melted. A flicker of superstition stirs in you. You hang the misshapen shoe on a nearby fence post, just in case. Protection, even if flawed, feels better than none. The road feels emptier than before. A few villagers hurry past, avoiding your eyes. A chicken darts into your path, feathers puffed. You step aside and notice it's missing one leg. Just a stub where the other should be, scarred and healed. It stares at you, unbothered, then hops away. You laugh nervously. Guess even chickens aren't safe, you mutter. When you reach your cottage, your wife has been listening to the gossip. They say Odo's fire turned blue, she whispers, and that the iron screamed. You rub your temples. It didn't scream. It cracked. Still, she says, glancing toward the hearth. Maybe you shouldn't light ours tonight. The hearth feels colder for her words. The evening creeps in slowly, shadows long and uncertain. You sit near the window, sharpening your sickle by habit. The rasp of metal is strangely soothing, but when you test the blade against your thumb, it feels duller than it should be. You try again. Still dull. You frown, turning it toward the light. The edge looks fine, but somehow it won't cut. The irony isn't lost on you. Out in the lane, children sing a skipping rhyme you've never heard before. The tune is lilting, almost cheerful, but the words are strange. Hammer high, hammer low, fire burns, and no bells go. Iron bends, and saints don't show. Who guards the forge below? You step to the door, heart thudding. Where'd you learn that? You ask one of them. The girl shrugs. She came to me. Children invent songs all the time, you tell yourself, but the coincidence gnaws at you. When night finally falls, the fog returns thicker than before. From your window, you can see the faint orange glow of Odo's forge, still burning too bright, too long. The rhythm of the hammer is gone, replaced by something slower, heavier. One blow. Then silence, then another. You lie awake, listening. It doesn't stop. All night, that slow pounding echoes faintly through the village. Just before dawn, you hear a shout, a raw, broken sound. You grab your cloak and run toward the forge. The door hangs open. The fire has gone out. The air smells of scorched iron and something acrid, like burnt hair. The anvil is cracked clean in two. Odo is gone. Only his hammer remains. Half buried in the ashes, its head blackened as though dipped in shadow. No one speaks for a long time. Finally, Marta murmurs from behind you. When the tools refuse the hand, the world's unmaking itself. You look at the split anvil, the blackened hammer, and feel the truth of it settling in your bones. Morning limps into the village like a wounded animal. The fog has lifted, but it's left behind a silence that feels heavier than mist. You wake before the roosters cry, only to remember that no rooster has crowed since yesterday. The air smells faintly of iron, dust, and damp earth. The kind of scent that belongs to a world trying to remember what it was supposed to be doing. You sit up, listening. Somewhere in the distance, a cart creaks, its wheel turning unevenly. A few footsteps, hushed. Nothing else. You almost miss the noise of the bell, the comfort of it, echoing across the fields, telling you when to wake, when to pray, when to eat. Without it, time just stretches. Your wife is already at the door, peering out. "They found him," she says. Your stomach sinks. You don't ask who. You already know. By the time you reach the forge, the entire village is gathered. Odo's hammer lies where you saw it last, half buried in the ashes. But the man himself has been found by the riverbank, face down in the mud, arms spread wide, as if he'd been trying to bless the water. Someone says there were no footprints near him, just the shape of his body and a single black feather resting beside his hand. "Crow feather," mutters one of the elders. "Death's quill." The priest, Father Roland, kneels beside the body. His face is pale, drawn. He looks at the feather, then at the sky, as if waiting for some cue. But none comes. "Bring him to the chapel," he says finally. His voice trembles, though he tries to steady it. No one moves. Someone whispers, "The Lord's not there today." The words hang in the air like smoke. You glance toward the chapel. Its door is shut tight, the crucifix above it darkened by soot. Maybe it's just shadow, maybe not. Father Roland stands. His hands shake as he wipes mud from his robes. "Superstition will not take the place of faith," he says, but even he doesn't sound convinced. Historians still argue whether medieval priests encouraged or feared village superstitions. Some blessed charms and relics just to keep peace with their flock. Others condemn them, even while secretly using them. The line between faith and fear was always soft, easily smudged by the hand of panic. And right now, panic is winning. Someone murmurs about how the river runs wrong, that the water flows sluggish, thicker than usual. Another swears they saw fish floating belly up. You walk closer and see it for yourself. The water looks darker, as though the sky's reflection forgot how to be blue. A woman named Isolde points toward the forest. "There," she says, her voice trembling. "The crows, they're gathering again." You follow her gaze. The trees beyond the village are black with movement, hundreds of crows perched along the branches, their eyes glinting like drops of oil. None of them caw. They just watch. "Maybe they're waiting," Isolde says. "For what?" you ask. "For the next one." You wish she hadn't said that. The villagers start arguing, half of them wanting to bury Odo immediately. The other half insisting he needs to be burned, just in case whatever took him tries to follow home. Father Roland snaps that cremation is forbidden, but his words bounce uselessly against the wall of fear. You step forward, surprising yourself. "He was a good man," you say. "We bury him as one." There's a pause, then a few nods. A small mercy at least. As they carry Odo's body toward the churchyard, the crows rise all at once, a thunder of wings. Shadows ripple across the ground, blotting out the sunlight for a heartbeat. You flinch instinctively, ducking your head. When you look up again, the crows are circling slow, deliberate, like a dark halo. Someone whispers a prayer. Another spits on the ground. A third simply closes their eyes and starts humming. Later, when the grave is filled and the priest walks away, you linger. The mound of earth looks small. Too small for a man who forged plows and swords and horseshoes for half the valley. You press your palm to the dirt. It's warm, warmer than it should be. You pull your hand back quickly. That night, the villagers light candles outside their doors, not for faith, but for fear. You do the same, though the wax melts faster than usual, and the flame burns low and blue. The air hums faintly, like something just beyond hearing. As you sit by the window, your wife asks, "Do you think he sinned?" You turn to her. "Odo." "No." She nods slowly. "Then why did God take him?" You don't answer. Because no one really knows how the divine measures sin. Historians still debate whether medieval people believed in fate or punishment, that a plague or a drought or a forge gone wrong was random or retribution. To live then was to live beneath a sky full of riddles. The wind picks up outside, rattling the shutters. You blow out the candle and lie back, eyes open to the darkness. Somewhere an owl hoots, then another, then silence again. You dream of the forget's glow pulsing like a heartbeat. In the dream, Odo's hammer floats mid-air, striking the anvil on its own. Each strike sends ripples through the ground, through the sky, through your bones. When you wake, your hands are clenched so tight your nails have left crescents in your palms. At dawn, Father Roland calls for a meeting. He stands in the village square, holding a small wooden box. "We will restore order," he says. "There will be fasting and prayer." T hesitates. "We must rid ourselves of any unholy charms or relics." A murmur runs through the crowd. You think of the crooked horseshoe you left on the fence post. "Bring them all to me by nightfall," he continues. "We will burn them together." The word burn tastes wrong. But no one argues. You return home and gather what little you have that might count as superstition: a sprig of rowan tied above the door, a small bone charm carved with a cross, a scrap of cloth your grandmother swore could stop nosebleeds if tied around your wrist. You hold them in your hands, reluctant. They feel harmless, maybe even comforting. But you know what fear can do to reason. By evening, the pile in the square is taller than a man. Amulets, charms, carved saints, protective herbs, all of it heaped together like offerings to some strange god. Father Roland stands beside it with a torch. "We purify the village," he declares. He lowers the torch. The flames catch quickly, roaring upward. The smell of burning herbs and wax fills the air. For a moment, it almost feels holy until something inside the pile hisses, then pops, then screams. You flinch, so does everyone else. "Bones," someone stammers. Someone threw bones in, but no one admits to it. The fire burns too hot, too fast. Sparks leap into the night sky, joining the stars. You step back, watching faces glow and flicker, and delight, some fearful, some defiant. The fire's reflection dances in Father Roland's eyes like a secret he doesn't want. Then, a strange thing happens. The flames begin to bend not upward, but sideways, toward the chapel, as though drawn by something unseen. The priest drops the torch, steps back, murmuring a prayer that sounds more like an apology. The chapel door creaks open. Slowly, every soul in the square goes still. Inside the doorway stands the old crucifix, tilting slightly from years of wind and weather. But tonight, its shadow stretches farther than it should, long and thin, across the ground. The flames flicker and lower, like bowing. No one moves, not even you. The wind shifts. The fire gutters out, leaving only embers. The darkness rushes back, and all at once, thick and absolute. For a long time, the only sound is the crackle of cooling wood. Then Father Roland says quietly, "Tomorrow, we pray." You look at the sky. No stars now, just a blank, black dome. When you finally return home, you pass the fence post where the crooked horseshoe once hung. It's gone. Only a scorch mark remains. You close the door behind you, bolt it, and sit in the dark. The world outside is silent again. The kind of silence that listens back. The next morning comes late, as if the sun itself hesitates to rise. When it finally does, the light feels weak, filtered through a veil you can't quite see. The fields are damp, the air heavy, and the usual clatter of tools and voices is missing. Even the dogs are quiet. You step outside to find the village moving like a sleepwalker. People whisper instead of talking. Doors creak open, then close again quickly. You can smell smoke from the ashes of last night's fire in the square sour. Clinging scent, like something that shouldn't have been burned. Your wife stands beside you, arms crossed. "It's not over," she murmurs. You nod. Of course it's not. You feel it too, that uneasy tension under the skin of things. Like the world is waiting for something, and whatever it is, you'd rather it kept waiting. The priest has called for prayer again, this time at the riverbank. You join the slow procession heading down the road. It's quiet, except for the soft shuffle of boots and the occasional cough. Someone mutters a psalm, the words half forgotten and stumbling. When you reach the river, you see the water has dropped overnight. The mud gleams slick and dark, the kind that sucks at your boots if you step too close. Father Roland stands on a rock, clutching his Bible like a shield. "The Lord will see our humility," he says, though his voice trembles at the edges. He will cleanse what's been stained. But even as he speaks, you notice the water, how it doesn't flow right. It moves in slow, swirling eddies, as if stirred by invisible hands. You can't look at it too long without feeling dizzy. A boy points at the far bank. "Something's in there," he says. Everyone looks. A black shape bobs on the surface, half sunken, half floating. For a moment, you think it's driftwood, till it rolls over and you see the face. Pale, bloated, eyes open. It's one of the farmers, Haman, the one who helped dig Odo's grave. His hands are clasped together as if still praying. Gasps ripple through the crowd. Someone screams. Father Roland raises his hands, but no one listens. People back away from the river, tripping over one another. "Stay calm," the priest shouts. "Stay." Then the body jerks. Just once, sharply, like a marionette pulled by an unseen string. The crowd scatters. You find yourself running before you even realize it, boots slipping in the mud. When you finally stop, your heart hammering, you look back. The river is still. The body's gone. No one speaks for the rest of the day. By evening, the fear has curdled into something else, something meaner. Villagers start pointing fingers, accusing whispers spreading faster than wind through wheat. "It's the widow Beatrice," says one. "Oh, she keeps charms in her house. She cursed the cows last winter," adds another. "And her milk never spoils what normal milk doesn't spoil." The priest doesn't stop them. He only watches, silent. Maybe he's thinking the same thing you are. People need a target before they turn on themselves. You know Beatrice. She's old, sharp-tongued, lives near the edge of the woods. Her garden grows green, even when others wilt. You've seen her talking to her cat as if it understands. You never thought much of it till now, when every small oddity feels like evidence. That night, the mob forms. Torches, pitchforks, the works. You tell yourself you won't join them, but when the knock comes on your door, you grab your cloak anyway. Maybe to make sure it doesn't go too far. Maybe because you're afraid of what happens if you stay behind. You find Beatrice standing in her doorway, back straight, eyes calm. "You think I caused this?" she says. "You think I could unmake the world?" No one answers. A cat hisses, fur bristling. Someone throws a stone. It misses, shattering a clay pot instead. The old woman doesn't flinch. "Fools," she says. "The Lord has left. It's not because of me. It's because of you." That's all it takes. The crowd surges forward. You try to stop them shouting, grabbing arms, but it's no use. Fear has eaten through reason. Within moments, her house is aflame. The smoke rises black and thick, carrying with it the scent of herbs and oil and something you can't name. Beatrice doesn't scream. She just stands there, framed by fire, eyes fixed on the sky. When the roof collapses, a gust of hot air washes over you, and you stumble back, coughing. The villagers cheer, but it sounds hollow, like a prayer said by someone who's forgotten the words. Later, when the fire dies, you walk home through the ash-flecked air. The village looks different, smaller somehow, as if the burning took something out of it that can't be rebuilt. Historians still argue whether witch hunts were born from belief or fear. But standing there, with smoke clinging to your clothes and guilt to your skin, You know the answer. Both. Belief gave the match. Fear gave the flame. You don't sleep that night. Every creak of the floorboards sounds like footsteps. Every flicker of the hearth looks like firelight through her window. You find yourself whispering Beatrice's last words over and over. If the Lord has left. By morning, a fine layer of ash coats the village. The wind smells of burnt sage and sorrow. You walk past the ruins of Beatrice's home, just blackened stones now, and something glinting among them. You bend down and pick it up. A small iron ring, still warm. You slip it into your pocket without knowing why. When you reach the square, the priest is already there, pale and sleepless. "We will cleanse again," he says. "No fire this time, water." You almost laugh. You saw what's in the river. He nods grimly. "That's why we'll draw from the well instead." The villagers gather again, some hopeful, others numb. The well stands at the center of the square, its stones dark with moss. The priest lowers a bucket, draws up the water, and blesses it. In the name of the Father, he begins, then stops. His voice falters. The water is moving, not rippling, turning. Slowly, clockwise, like it's being stirred. A murmur spreads through the crowd. Someone gasps. The priest steps back, his lips moving in silent prayer. You can see it too now. The water is thick, darker than it should be. It smells faintly of rust and something metallic like blood. He tries again, forcing the words out. "In the name of..." The bucket jerks, hard. The rope snaps and the water splashes upward, cold and stinging. You stagger back, blinking. When you open your eyes, the well is quiet again. But the rope is frayed clean through. You meet Father Roland's gaze. He looks lost. "Perhaps," he says softly, "we have already been abandoned. You don't realize you're gripping the iron ring in your pocket until it cuts into your palm. You look down, the edge has drawn a thin line of blood. It doesn't hurt, but the sight of it makes your chest tighten." That night, no one lights candles. The village goes dark, each house an island of quiet dread. You sit by the window, listening to the wind move through the trees. Somewhere far off, you hear the faint echo of the bell, just one note, distant and uncertain. You stand, straining to listen. There it is again. A single chime, then another. You run outside, breath misting in the cold air. The chapel door stands open, swaying slightly. Inside, the bell rope hangs still, untouched. Yet the sound keeps coming soft, hollow, as if from beneath the earth. Your skin prickles. Then, as suddenly as it began, it stops. You turn to Levant, see something glimmering in the corner. The melted stub of a candle burned down to nothing, resting on the altar. Wax pooled like tears. You reach out, and the air grows colder. You pull back quickly, heart pounding. Maybe it's just your mind. Or maybe it's what Beatrice said. If the Lord has left, something else has taken his place. You close the chapel door behind you and whisper into the dark, "Bring him back." Only the echo answers. You wake to the smell of smoke again. But this time, it's not fire, it's incense. Heavy, sweet, and clinging. The kind that seeps into your hair and clothes. The kind used for funerals. The village is gathered in the square. Father Roland stands before the well, its stone rim now blackened from the strange water that spilled yesterday. He's holding a censer, the chains trembling in his shaking hands as he swings it back and forth. The smoke drifts upward, curling into faint shapes, crosses, maybe, or faces if you look too long. "The Lord tests us," he says hoarsely. He allows darkness to touch us so that our faith may prove stronger. You wonder if he believes his own words. Behind him, someone coughs. Then another. Within moments, the sound spreads low, rasping, contagious. You feel your throat tighten in sympathy. "Though you're fine. For now, plague," whispers your wife. "No, you say automatically. But even as you speak, the old dread uncoils in your mind. It's been years since the last outbreak, but everyone remembers. Everyone always remembers. The priest finishes his ritual, dabs sweat from his brow, and steps down. His face is ashen. Go to your homes, he says. Pray. Boil your water. Burn rosemary if you have it. You hear someone mutter that there's no rosemary left. Beatrice's garden was the only one that grew it. You glance toward her burned cottage. The ground there still smokes faintly. The crowd disperses slowly, uneasy murmurs trailing in the air. You walk home in silence, the sound of coughing following like a bad refrain. Inside, your wife already has the shutters closed. It's spreading, she says. You don't ask how she knows. You can hear it too now, the muffled coughs from nearby houses, the distant sound of someone retching. The village feels smaller by the minute, hemmed in by sickness and superstition. Historians still argue whether medieval villagers truly understood disease or only feared it. Some say they believed illness was divine punishment, others that it came from bad air or miasma, drifting from the earth itself. But to the people living through it, the reason didn't matter. Death was a neighbor who never knocked first. You try to keep busy, though the day stretches long and colorless. You fetch water from the stream instead of the well, though it tastes like copper. You help your wife hang damp cloths over the door to keep the sickness out. You tell yourself it's nonsense, but you hang them anyway. By evening, you hear the first wail. A child's, then another, from farther down the road. You step outside, heart thudding. The sky is bruised purple, the air thick with the smell of incense and sweat. Father Roland walks past, clutching a small wooden cross. He looks half mad with exhaustion. Stay inside, he warns. It moves faster at night. What does? You ask. He doesn't answer. You bolt the door. The night drags on. You lie awake, listening to every cough, every creak. At some point, you drift into a half-sleep. You dream of the Bell Agante's hollow sound, the rope swaying without a hand to pull it. But this time, when you look up at the tower, you see something else. A shape, tall and thin, holding the rope with fingers too long, face hidden in shadow. You jolt awake, gasping. The air feels colder, though the fire still burns. You glance toward the window and freeze. There's someone standing outside. You can't see their face, just the outline against the dim starlight. Still as a statue, watching, you whisper your wife's name, but she doesn't stir. You blink, and the figure is gone. You tell yourself it was nothing, just your mind. Too many stories, too little sleep. Morning brings no relief. The coughing has worsened. You see two men carrying a stretcher toward the chapel, a sheet pulled over what's clearly a body. You count another 3 by midday. The priest still moves from house to house, murmuring blessings. He looks thinner now, his voice cracking from overuse. When he reaches your door, he pauses. His eyes look wrong red, unfocused. You've not coughed? He asks. Not yet, you say. Then thank God. He steps back, then lowers his voice. The sickness doesn't behave like before. It's not fever, not swelling. They just stop breathing. Mid-sentence, your wife shudders. Is it punishment? Father Roland hesitates. If it is, I no longer know for what. He leaves before you can answer. That night, the coughing stops. Completely. No sound from any house. No footsteps outside. Just silence. You'd think it would be a relief, but it's worse, somehow like the whole village is holding its breath. You lie awake, waiting for dawn. It doesn't come. Not right away. The darkness stretches on, the hours refusing to pass. You light a candle. The flame flickers violently, then steadies. You stare at it, trying to focus on something ordinary. Then you hear it, a faint tapping. You look around. The sound comes from beneath the floor. You crouch, press your ear to the boards. The tapping continues steady, deliberate, like knuckles on wood. You whisper, "Who's there?" Silence. Then 3 sharp knocks in reply. You stumble back, heart pounding. Your wife stirs. "What is it?" You force a smile. "It's probably rats," but you both know it's not. When dawn finally arrives, pale gray, reluctant, you lift the loose board near the hearth. Nothing, just dirt. You close it quickly, not wanting to look too long. Outside, the air feels wrong again. Too still, too clean. You walk through the village expecting to see movement, life, but there's none. Doors hang open, chairs overturned. You knock on one door, no answer, nothing. The square is empty. Then you see them. A line of footprints bare wet, leading from the well toward the chapel. You follow. The prints stop at the church door. You push it open slowly. Inside, it's dark. The air is thick with incense again, but this time it's mixed with something else. Decay. The pews are filled. Not with the living. Dozens of villagers sit slumped, heads bowed, hands clasped in prayer. Their skin is pale, almost gray. Their lips are parted slightly, as if whispering something you can't hear. You stagger backward, nearly tripping. "Father Roland," you call. From the altar, a voice answers softly, "I'm here." You turn. He's kneeling, hands clasped around the crucifix, eyes closed. For a moment, you think he's praying too. Then you see the dark streak down his neck, the mark of blood dried in a thin line. You whisper his name again. He doesn't move. And then, faintly, the bell begins to toll. You look up at the tower. The rope sways on its own, the sound slow and uneven. One toll, then another, then silence. You run. Out of the chapel, out of the square, down the road, until your lungs burn. The world feels hollow behind you, as though the village has folded in on itself. When you finally stop, you're in the fields. The grass shivers under the wind, and far off, a flock of crows rises dark against the weak morning sky. You drop to your knees, shaking. "Please," you whisper, "bring the light back." But the sky doesn't answer. It's then you notice your hand again, the one that held the iron ring. The small cut from yesterday has spread, the veins faintly blackened around it. You flex your fingers, they tremble. You don't say anything. You just sit there, breathing hard as the sound of the bell fades to nothing. You don't know how long you sit there, minutes, hours, maybe the whole day, but when you finally move, the sun is already sliding behind the hills. Its light hits your face like an accusation. You feel the faint sting of heat, the dry rasp of wind against your cracked lips, and realize you haven't eaten since yesterday. Hunger seems like such a normal thing, and you cling to it, grateful for anything that still feels human. You turn back toward the village. From here, it looks still almost peaceful in the fading light. The thatched roofs catch the last streaks of gold. The river glimmers like polished glass, and for a fleeting moment, you could almost pretend nothing happened. Almost, you start walking. The road feels longer this time, and quieter. No dogs barking, no children shouting, no hammers ringing from the smithy. Just the soft whisper of wind and the faint buzz of flies. When you reach the edge of the village, you stop. Something feels different. The air smells cleaner, lighter somehow. You step forward cautiously, as if expecting the ground to betray you. Then you see him, Father Roland, standing by the well. You freeze. He shouldn't be standing. You saw him in the chapel, didn't you? Head bowed, skin gray, hands stiff around the cross. You blink hard. Maybe it's the light. Maybe it's a trick. "Father," you call, voice breaking. He turns, slowly. His face looks wrong. Pale, yes, but not corpse pale. Strained, hollow, as though something inside him has been scooped out and replaced with nothing. "You came back," he says. His voice is faint, echoing oddly. You nod, because what else can you do? The village, you whisper. They're gone. He nods too, as if that's expected. They've gone where faith couldn't follow. You stare at him. What does that mean? He looks past you, toward the horizon. When the Lord turns his face away, something else fills the space. Always, a chill runs through you. You're saying this is the devil's work. He smiles faintly. If only it were that simple. He steps closer. You notice then the faint marks around his wrists, like he's been bound. The same black veins that now trace your own hand. You hide your arm behind your cloak. You touched the iron, he says quietly. Didn't you? You hesitate. It was just a ring. He nods again, as if confirming a thought. Iron remembers. It carries weight. Some say it binds the world of men to the unseen. That's why we wear crosses of it, why swords are blessed before battle. But that piece you found it was older. Not forged for men. A breeze passes between you. The sound it makes in the trees almost resembles a whisper. Older than men, you repeat. He gestures toward the sky, where twilight bleeds into night. Older than light, you swallow hard, trying to laugh, but it comes out dry. That's not possible. He gives you a tired look. Historians still argue whether such stories were ever meant to be true. But faith doesn't always need proof. You don't want to hear more. Your stomach twists. Where is everyone? They're still here, he says softly. In a way, he steps aside, revealing the well. You glance into a tan sea movement. At first, you think it's your reflection, but then the face moves differently. Lips parting, eyes wide and pleading. Another, then another. Dozens of faces rippling beneath the water, mouths opening in silent screams. You stumble back. What did you do? Father Roland lowers his gaze. What we always do. Tried to make sense of what we feared. Tried to fight what we couldn't name. You back away, shaking your head. This isn't real. He sighs. That's what they all said, until they heard their own names whispered from the water. You don't wait to hear yours. You turn and run. The night folds quickly, shadows thickening like ink. You pass the empty cottages, the burned garden, the chapel with its half-open door. The bell tower looms above, silent now. You can feel the black veins in your hand pulsing, as if something beneath your skin is listening. You reach your home and slam the door. Your wife looks up, startled. Where have you been? You can't answer. You just stare at her so alive, so solid on wonder if she's real. There's no one left, you whisper. They're all gone. She stares back. Gone where? You shake your head. I don't know. She comes closer, reaching for your arm. You're burning up. You pull away. Don't touch me, she freezes. Her eyes widen as she sees the veins. What happened to you? I don't know. You shout, louder than you mean to. The sound echoes, unnatural in the stillness. You both stand there, breathing hard. Then, quietly, she says, we should leave. You want to. Every instinct screams at you to run. But something in you resists. Leave, and go where? The next village would turn you away the moment they saw your hand. Besides, you're not sure there is a next village anymore. You sink into a chair. Just let me think. She nods, though her eyes linger on you with fear she tries to hide. She lights a candle, its glow soft and trembling. The room feels fragile under that single flame, as though one breath could snuff it out. You rest your head in your hands. The air hums faintly in your ears, like a distant bell. When you look up, she's staring at the window. Did you hear that? She whispers. You listen. Nothing, then a knock. Soft, slow. 3 times, you both freeze. Who is it? She calls. No answer, just another knock. You grab the poker from the hearth and move toward the door. The knocks continue, patient, measured. You lift the latch in, the wind bursts in, carrying the smell of smoke and something sweet, almost honey-like. No one there. You step outside, scanning the road. The air feels wrong again, thick, humming like the air before a storm. Then you hear it. Voices, dozens of them, whispering. You can't make out the words, only the rhythm. A chant, maybe, or a prayer. You move forward, heart hammering. The voices grow louder, but they come from nowhere and everywhere at once. You stop in the square. The well glows faintly now, a pale blue light rising from within. You step closer, despite yourself. The water is perfectly still. Then it ripples. You see faces again. Clearer this time, villagers' eyes, wide, mouths moving in unison. Their voices spill from the surface, layered and discordant. Join us, they whisper. The sun is gone. You back away slowly. No, you whisper. No, no, no. Behind you, footsteps. You spin. Father Roland stands there again, but now he's smiling a wide, broken smile. You see it now, he says. The Lord left, and something else filled the hollow. We called it superstition. We called it fear. But it's older than both. He steps closer. It wants witnesses. You stumble backward, tripping over a stone. The whispering grows frantic, overlapping words pressing against your skull. You shout, "Stop!" and everything goes silent. Even the wind dies. The well's light dims to nothing. Father Roland's expression changes. His mouth moves, but no sound comes. His eyes roll back, and he collapses. You stare at his body, breathing hard. Then slowly, you realize he's not alone. All around the square, shapes are forming. Figures of pale mist, faces half-made, hands reaching. They gather like smoke, circling the well, faintly luminous. You feel the cold before it touches you. It seeps into your skin, tracing the veins in your arm, following the black lines upward. You fall to your knees. The world wavers. You hear one last whisper, faint as breath. You kept the day, but lost the Lord. Then everything fades to gray. When you open your eyes, it's morning again. The village looks normal. Birds chirp. Smoke rises from chimneys. Your wife hums softly as she grinds flour at the table. For a moment, you think it was all a nightmare, until you notice the shadow of the well stretching longer than the sun allows to long, bending toward your door. And in your wife's humming, beneath her voice, you hear another tune, low and ancient, pulsing in time with your heartbeat. You don't say anything. You just sit there, staring at your hand, at the faint dark lines beneath your skin. They're gone now, or hiding. You tell yourself, this is peace, that the worst is over. But you can't help noticing that when you close your eyes, you still hear the bell. Slow, patient, waiting. You try to forget. You tell yourself it's over, that it has to be over. Days pass, or at least, what you think are days. The sun rises and falls, but the light feels thinner now, filtered through some invisible dust. The air carries a faint metallic temps, and the birds, they sing, but not quite right. A note too high, a rhythm too off, like they're mimicking something they don't understand anymore. You work the fields again. You force yourself to. Habit is the best illusion of sanity. You dig, you sow, you lift, you sweat. The earth feels heavy beneath the hoe, clinging to the blade like clay. When you strike too deep, you hear a hollow thudstone, maybe. You dig around it, curiosity outweighing caution. It isn't stone, it's a skull, small, smooth, and cracked clean through. You freeze, staring, not a saint's relic, not holy, just old. Older than this field, older than your name. You cover it quickly, as if the act of hiding could erase what you saw. Historians still argue whether peasants of your century ever dug up the forgotten dead and mistook them for demons or miracles. You decide you're not taking sides. You just keep digging somewhere else. At night, the air hums faintly again. You pretend not to notice. Your wife starts whispering prayers in her sleep. Not the usual ones, no Ave Maria, no Pater Noster. These sound different. Elise syllables twist like water slipping through fingers. You shake her awake once, softly. You're dreaming, you tell her. She blinks, confused. What do you mean? You were talking? I wasn't, she says. You watch her mouth move barely. Yes, you whisper. You were. She rolls over, away from you, and the sound fades. But when you close your eyes, you swear you hear it again. A whisper beneath the whisper, rising from the floorboards, from the well, from the air itself. You wake before dawn, heart racing. The first light paints the wall pale and cold. You reach for the candle, relight it, and see your reflection in the small bronze mirror. Your eyes look different. Slightly darker, maybe. Or maybe the light is wrong again. You dress, step outside. The air feels thicker, like soup. The mist never truly left the village, it just learned to hide in plain sight. You find Father Roland's book lying on the chapel steps, bound in leather, edges charred. You pick it up carefully. The first few pages are prayers, familiar Latin verses. But further in, the handwriting changes, scratches, frantic. The day faltered when the Lord's gaze withdrew. Superstition fills the void. Fear shapes what faith cannot. Name? You close it quickly, the words vibrating behind your eyes. The chapel smells like mold and wax. The bell rope sways faintly, even though there's no wind. You look up. The tower feels higher than before, stretching past logic. You mutter, no. But the tower doesn't care. You step back outside, the book clutched in your hand. The fields whisper when the wind touches them, like 1,000 soft sighs. The blacksmith's forge stands cold now. His hammer lies in the dirt, rust creeping over it. You remember how he used to boast that iron kept evil away? You wonder what he'd say if he saw your hand now whole again, but colder than metal. As the day drifts, the village feels emptier, though you know that's impossible. You still see smoke, still hear the faint sounds of work chickens clucking, tools scraping. But every time you look directly, nothing's there. You try not to think about it. You tell yourself fatigue can make the world bend. At noon, your wife appears in the doorway. They're back, she says. Who? Are the villagers? You follow her gaze toward the square. And she's right, figures move between the houses, carrying baskets, leading oxen, talking softly. From a distance, it looks almost normal. Too normal. You step closer. Their faces blur when you try to focus. It's not from distance, from something else. Like candlelight flickering behind thin cloth. One turns toward you. You can't tell if it's smiling or screaming. You take your wife's hand. Go inside. She doesn't move. They were here before us, she whispers. Maybe we were the ones who vanished. You pull her back, firm but gentle. Don't say that. She tilts her head. You hear it too, don't you? The bell? You do. Faint, steady, slower now. The sound travels through the air like water through cracks. You shut the door and bar it. Inside, the light flickers again. The fire hisses, spitting sparks. You sit, staring at the iron poker, wondering if it remembers the night you held it like a weapon. You whisper to yourself, it's just superstition. A voice behind you answers, that's what keeps it alive. You spin. The room is empty. You laugh because the alternative is screaming and rub your face. You've been alone too long, that's all. The mind plays tricks. But the voice wasn't in your head. It came from the hearth. You crawl closer. The flames bend toward you, unnaturally still. Inside the glow, faint shapes move faces again, whispering behind the fire. You throw water onto it. Steam fills the air, hissing like a sigh. When it clears, the hearth is dark. You lie down beside your wife, clutching her hand. Her skin is cold now. You squeeze harder. Say something, you whisper. She doesn't. You turn her face toward you and realize her eyes are open. She's staring at the ceiling, expression calm, to calm. Then, slowly, her lips move. But it's not her voice that comes out. "The Lord is gone," it says through her mouth. You stayed too long in his shadow. You recoil, heart hammering. Her eyes flick toward you, but she's not there anymore. You stumble to your feet, back against the wall. "Stop it," you whisper. "Please." Her mouth closes. For a moment, silence. Then, in her own voice, she says, "It's okay. It's only for tonight." You blink, tears burning your eyes. "What do you mean?" She smiles faintly. "When the sun rises, it'll choose who stays." You don't sleep. You sit in the corner, staring at her. She hums softly again, the same tune, the one that isn't hers. The melody curls through the air, too steady to be human. Hours drag. Outside, the mist thickens until the window looks painted over. When dawn comes, it's weak, gray, unwilling. You look at your wife and she's gone. Not gone like missing. Gone like she was never there. Her clothes remain folded neatly on the bed. You rush outside, shouting her name. The square is empty again. The fields are bare. Even the air feels vacant. Then, faintly, you hear her voice calling from the well. You run toward it, heart pounding. You lean over the edge. The water reflects your face, rippling softly. Then her hand bursts through the surface, grabbing yours. Her grip is strong, freezing. "Come back," she whispers. You pull, trying to free yourself. You're not her. Her fingers tighten, nails biting into your skin. "You stayed," she hisses. "You belong." You wrench free, falling backward. When you look again, the water is still. Just your reflection. You clutch your arm. The skin there is black again, the veins pulsing faintly. You whisper, "Please." No answer. You walk until your legs give out, collapsing in the grass. The world hums softly again, that same low tone that fills the air when prayers fail. You think about Father Roland's words, "The Lord tests us," or leaves us to test ourselves. You wonder which this is. By dusk, the bell rings one last time. The sound is faint, tired, hollow. You realize then it's not coming from the tower. It's coming from inside you. You close your eyes. The light fades. When you open them again, you're standing in the square. The villagers are their faces clear now, smiling, peaceful. Your wife among them. She reaches for your hand. "See," she says, "made it." You glance around. Everything looks right. Whole. The sun is warm again, the air alive. But when you look down, there's no shadow beneath your feet. You try to speak. No sound comes out. The villagers turn as one toward the well. The surface ripples once, then stills. You realize to light you never left. You're part of the echo now, waiting for the next voice to call your name. Morning comes reluctantly, slanting pale light across the village like an afterthought. You wake on the edge of the square, knees scraped, hands trembling. The air smells faintly of soot and damp earth. You press a hand to your chest. It feels heavier than it should. The black veins under your skin pulse slowly, like the rhythm of the forgotten bell. The village is quiet, too quiet. Not the soft, ordinary quiet of dawn, but a thick, expectant silence. Windows stare like empty eyes. Doors lean ajar as if waiting. The well in the square gleams faintly, its surface still like glass. Something hums beneath it, a vibration so low you feel it in your teeth. You move through the streets. Every footstep echoes unnaturally, though you're alone. Birds perch silently on rooftops, their heads tilting toward you, their eyes too sharp. The wind does not stir the leaves. It's like the world has paused, holding its breath. Your hands clench around the iron ring you've carried since Beatrice's fire. It's warm now, pulsing faintly, alive in a way that makes your fingers tingle. You remember Father Roland's warning. Iron remembers. And this iron, older than the village itself, carries more than memory, carries the weight of absence. You reach the chapel. Its doors are closed, the wood warped. The bell tower leans slightly, as if bowing toward the square. Inside, the pews are empty, the altar bare, and the faint smell of incense lingers sweet, cloying, wrong. You feel eyes on you. You turn slowly, but no one is there. Historians still argue whether medieval superstition was a product of ignorance or imagination. But standing here, with the echo of the past pressing into your bones, you don't care about debate. Fear has teeth, and it has claimed this village. The iron ring burns lightly on your finger. You press it into your palm. Pain flares, sharp and real. And for a moment, the world trembles. You hear whispers beneath the ground, like wind through hollow bone. Shapes ripple in the edges of your vision, villagers frozen mid-step, eyes wide, mouths forming silent prayers. You stumble back, heart hammering. You try to breathe. In, out, in, out. The rhythm steadies, but the pulse in your hand doesn't stop. You know now, you're tethered. Something has claimed you. A faint rustling draws your gaze to the far end of the square. The shadows pool there unnaturally. Then movements, low, deliberate. A figure emerges from the gloom. Not Father Roland, not your wife, not anyone you recognize. Just a shape, thin and tall, cloaked in something dark that seems to drink the light. Its face is hidden. Come, it whispers. No mouth, just sound that travels directly into your skull. You want to run, you want to scream, but your legs are lead. Your voice catches in your throat. The ring burns hotter. The black veins pulse in tandem with the whisper. Follow, it says again, and this time you do. You move without thought, feet carrying you across the square, toward the figure, toward the well. The water swirls as you approach, black as tar, reflecting a sky you don't recognize. The ripples form faces every villager you knew, every friend, every neighbor. They smile or they scream. It's impossible to tell which. The shapes rise and sink, liquid memories frozen in motion. The figure reaches the edge of the well, tilting its head. You notice the ring pulses against your palm like a heartbeat. The figure points, not at you, but beyond, into the water. You lean over. And for the first time, you see not their faces, not the water, but yourself. Pale, black-veined eyes, wide with the weight of too much sight. The reflection speaks before you can. You've stayed, it says. You saw what others could not. And now you belong. Your knees buckle. You collapse, clutching the stone edge of the well. The voices rise, a chorus of the missing, the dead, the unclaimed. They echo in your mind, soft at first, then insistent, pressing into your thoughts like water filling a jar. You remember Father Roland's warnings, Beatrice's eyes in the fire, the bell tolling in the empty chapel. You remember the river, the coughing, the ring, the whispers, the black veins that now pulse beneath your skin. The figure steps aside. The water rises, not with force, but with invitation. It swirls, a whirlpool of faces, limbs, and shadows. One hand reaches for you, yours, it seems, but not yours. A hand that remembers all the days without the Lord. You reach for it, hesitate, then grasp it. The world shudders. The edges of the village blur. Light fractures and bends. Time stretches and twists. You feel yourself pulled into the water, not drowning, but dissolving, becoming part of something older, larger, a memory stored in liquid eternity. And then, silence. You open your eyes. The village is quiet again. Birds sing normally. The sun rises fully, warm and golden. The well is still. The bell tower leans peacefully. Your wife's garden blooms bright in the morning light. You step forward, no black veins, no pulsing in your hand, just the world, ordinary and alive. You breathe deeply, tasting the air. And yet, somewhere, faint beneath your ribs, you can feel it. The echo of absence, the memory of what waits, the soft hum of the bell, patient and eternal. You take a step forward, then another. The village welcomes you back, as if nothing happened. But in your heart, you know the truth. The day without the Lord changed everything. And the shadows that lingered, patient and quiet, will always be waiting. Just beneath the surface, in the edges of the well, in the whispers of the wind, in the soft, hollow toll of the bell, you trudge on through the streets, the sun warm on your back. Life resumes its ordinary rhythm, yet you walk differently now, aware, cautious, and carrying with you the secret knowledge of what superstition and sin can summon. You glance at the well one last time, and for a moment, the water ripples on its own. You know you'll never forget.